All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Michael McGovern. Michael, welcome to the show. So awesome to have you, man.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
great to get to know each other a little bit more
Yeah.
so recently, and I know we just had you on the podcast on our side as well. So yeah, appreciate you having me on.
And I'll tell you, that was a really awesome experience being on your guys' podcast. And it's kind of interesting because so many of the people in my life, especially for the podcast, I usually get introduced to because it was somebody else I'd already interviewed. And after having the experience, they're like, oh my gosh, Kev, you got to interview so and so, and I want to connect you with them or what have you. But you and we just kind of been bouncing around and just kind of watching each other on Facebook
Yeah,
and I just saw you were doing some cool stuff, and I ended up reaching out, and we made time to connect, and really hit it off there. And I was just like, man, Michael's doing some really cool stuff, and uh, and then I invited you to, I shared the podcast with you and told you about that, and I was like, man, I'd love to do an interview with you, and then you and Ross offered to do an interview with me on your guys' show as well. And like, here we are. And I'll tell you, this is like, I know we were talking before we hit the record button because, for me, being this guy who I am just feel like such a blessed guy because I won't say it's been easy, but it has been an amazing journey, and it still continues to be a journey of just stepping into this role of being the conduit of trust for the entrepreneurs in my life and being that guy who facilitates these amazing relationships for them. And yet, what just kind of comes up, and what I was telling you is that, like, when we make real meaningful connection, not just surface level BS kind of stuff, but real meaningful connection with each other. When that happens, the business side of it is so doggone easy. And when there is that trust in both competence and in character, when those two trusts are present, there's zero friction. And when there's zero friction, everything just happens in ease. It happens in flow. It happens quickly. And like I said, yeah, business comes easy when that real meaningful connection is there. And that's what I get to do. I get to facilitate that so the business can come easily, and when you're doing that with the right people, you get to impact millions of people's lives. And of course, the natural organic byproduct of that is millions of dollars in revenue gets created and stuff. And so, I'm just really excited for, I've really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more, and I look forward to having more conversations with you. But I'm really excited to give you the opportunity to just kind of share your story around this topic of relationships today. And I just want to start. I'm just going to turn it over to you so we can set a little bit of context and we can let the listeners know a little bit, like, who you are, what you do, who you serve, and what inspires you most about the work that you're doing, Michael, and the impact you're making. And we'll start there.
yeah, I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I mean, what inspires me? Yeah, I'll maybe I'll give you a little bit of background about
Yeah,
myself,
go
and
right
then
ahead.
and then I can kind of filter into that side of things. So yeah, I back in 2015, wow, it's almost 10 years now. I graduated college with a journalism degree. I specialized in documentary film, and then quickly after graduation, I said, hey, why don't I give it a shot? I want to write and direct movies.
Okay.
So I had a short stint in Hollywood. Quickly found out I was not cut out to be a personal assistant, which is how a lot of people get their foot in the door there.
Okay.
And then, after that, I was kind of figuring out, okay, what do I want to do? And I had a friend who his name is Odie. Since this is a relationship podcast, I'll drop his name. He seemed to be having a good amount of success with this internet marketing thing. And
Okay.
so I fell down the rabbit hole there, eventually landed on copywriting as sort of my main skill set. Um, sort of like one of those, the Steve Jobs quote of you can only connect the dots looking backwards, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like, writing, journalism, screenwriting. I should have been copywriting all along. It took me a little while to land on that though. So yeah, so then from there, I work with financial publishers, business coaches, real estate coaches, sort of in that, financial or business education space. Um, and then yeah, and then most recently, launched a brand around the topic of Main Street mergers and acquisitions. Where some of these smaller businesses, a lot of people are starting to realize the opportunity of buying and selling small businesses as an opportunity for wealth creation and stuff like that. So have some great partners on that side of things. And so yeah, so it kind of just to get to your question about what inspires me, it's cool because moving through the internet marketing world, which I absolutely love, and it's sort of my background. It's also fun to sort of be on the new frontier of an emerging market and being able to share with people that not only can you solve clients' problems, but you can solve business owners' problems when they're looking to retire, sell, do something that excites them even more, move on to the next chapter, and so just to be part of that newer movement in the market is exciting and fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I had a gentleman on this podcast probably about a year ago that had sold his company and in the process signed agreed to a 3-year term to help the new buyers. And that gentleman, I won't share his name because it doesn't matter, but he had, at the time that I interviewed him, he had like 6 months left on that 3-year agreement, and he was just counting down the days till he was done with that. And he was like, Kevin, looking back on this, he's like, it wasn't what I wanted at all, And he's like, there were signs, and I should have looked, but he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm almost done now, and now he's like, I already know what I'm doing next stuff. Now I got another gal that I've known, and actually she has been a client and stuff, and ran a very successful company, and she sold it, and I don't know what her agreement looks like with the new buyers, but she is totally jazzed doing what she does now with helping the new buyers and stuff. And she's also getting a stake in the company. And so, there is like two different ends of this. Oh, and then I actually have another friend of mine who I haven't spoken with him in about a year. And I think he's kind of figured this out now, but he sold his company and had a really big exit on it and stuff. And at the time that I was talking with him, this would have been probably 9-10 months ago. He's like, Kev, he's like, it's not like life has been bad. He's like, I had a really nice exit, and he's like, heck, we're taken care of financially for the rest of our lives. But now I'm trying to kind of figure out what's next, because I just kind of feel like I'm just hanging out and kind of like limbo. And he's like, I want to figure out what's next for me and stuff. And so there's a lot of variables at play there when entrepreneurs are looking at selling. And somebody who's already had experience in that process to kind of point out some of this stuff. I got to imagine that entrepreneurs who are looking at exiting would really appreciate being able to have the insight like that from somebody who's already helped take people through that process and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And so, well, now that we've got a little bit of context set, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here, and I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. So, Michael, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons. And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, the first one that comes to mind. So um, I was working with a guy named Stephen Kuhn. So
Okay.
he was doing a little bit of work for him, and um, he ended up introducing me to Ross Tompkins, who is now
Okay.
my partner on the Business Acquisition Summit. Um, and yeah, that's been an incredible introduction. And from there, I think I had a conversation with Steven a while back, and he did a lot of personal work and kind of realized that his moniker for the way that he wants to operate in the world is powerful connector. So,
Okay.
I think, you guys would have some similarity there. But I think, he saw something in what I do and something in what Ross does, and then put us together. And then that, eventually led to the brand where we introduced to the third partner in that business named Len. Um, and then, looking at deals together as well. So, I think that sort of example sort of speaks to your point about the potential of making connections like that, and having someone being able to see, who's a good fit to meet and who's a good fit to potentially collaborate is such a valuable thing.
Yeah. 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 So if you look at these two gentlemen, um, I want you to like look at a situation where you personally, you, an event or something happened where you were like, wow, that was really amazing. You got to make a big impact, yeah, but you also know that would have never happened if not for your relationship with either one of these two gentlemen. What's an example of something like that, Michael?
Yeah, well, I think with that brand that we started together,
Okay.
we had we've now had two virtual events in that space,
Okay.
where each time had more than 1,000 people register, brought
Right.
together thought leaders and experts in the mergers and acquisition field, speak from all over the world, and just to get that sort of feedback from the attendees of that event, and just having their eyes opened to so many opportunities in the space, was really great to bring, you know, people who want to learn about that together with the experts and to create that sort of space on a global scale. I think I remember going through and looking at all of our data, and it was an international audience, a lot of Americans, but also people from uh, tons of different countries all around the world. I'm pretty sure we touched every continent except for Antarctica, but maybe we'll
Okay.
get a couple penguins in attendance next year.
That's pretty amazing. So what is so when will the next business acquisition summit be held? When's the next one, Michael?
We're looking at March of
March. Okay.
this next year. Yeah,
Okay.
not 100% locked down on dates yet, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what is your guys' so you've done two of these and you've had that experience. And what is your from now your vantage point now? What's your vision going forward from this from where you're at now?
Yeah, we want to continue growing, and as of now, it's been virtual events.
Huh?
We would like to cross over into in-person events at some point soon, and would really like to be the biggest, name in that space in terms of events and conferences. So yeah, that's kind of the vision moving forward, and um, yeah, we're looking to make that transition at some point.
Awesome. Awesome. So, for anybody listening to this, that might be now thinking like, man, Kev, I really like Michael. I like the way Michael shows up. And now I'm curious about this business acquisition summit. how can they find out more or get more information on it?
Yeah, if you Google us, one of our landing pages will pop up,
Okay,
for probably from the last summit, the
okay,
2024 summit. Yeah, there's a way to opt in, get some free videos and stay in touch there. So that's probably the best way to stay in touch about that brand.
okay, okay. Any other resources or anything that you feel led to let anybody know about or anything, or is that the
On
kind of
the business acquisition summit side,
yeah,
or
or anything else that you guys are doing?
yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's probably the best resource there. But yeah, I think that's another great thing that came out of that introduction, that relationship, which is, you know, Ross has a lot of the expertise on the acquisition side of things. He also has healthcare as part of his background. And then, we came together to kind of say, hey, we've got some really complementary skill sets here, me with the marketing side and with the acquisition side. So yeah, we're also looking at deals in the United States now, and looking to do some of those acquisitions ourselves.
Okay.
So yeah, if that's of interest, we happy to have those conversations.
So give folks a little bit, because I know you guys have kind of a criteria of who you're best able to help and serve. So let them know who your criteria is and what so they kind of know before they would even want to reach out or what have you.
Yeah, yeah. I think the two or the three main avenues is, if you think of it like a spectrum. On one side, with the lightest touch, is help people raise money. If they're looking to raise investment in exchange for equity in a company, we can potentially refer to investors from our network. On the other side is a full acquisition. That's obviously a much more involved process.
Sure.
There, we're looking mostly at 1 to 5 million in revenue. We're largely industry agnostic, just looking for healthy businesses with good teams, and owners that are looking for something new.
Okay.
And then somewhere in the middle, sometimes people, they don't want to raise money. Sometimes they don't want to sell the company, but they want help growing and scaling. And that's where we can kind of come in as sort of a two, have two ways of taking that growth, which is, marketing or growth through acquisition. And
Okay.
that's really Ross's area of expertise. And I think, that's one that is not really familiar to a lot of business owners. I think a lot of people, grow organically through sales and marketing, which is
Yep.
great. But there's a lot of potential speed and scale of acquiring, which is a lot of how you know big boys do it, and on Wall Street, and then some of these higher revenue companies say, hey, we can either try to build this ourselves, and all the blood, sweat, tears, and years that come with that, or we can find other companies that are in alignment with our vision or our growth plan, and bring them into the fold. So that's sort of the three ways we like to approach different deals, and it's different just depending on what the person needs. So it's nice to come into different calls or meetings and not have an agenda, and just be focused on what does this person want, need, and where would they like to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And so I'm going to make sure that we include your email and stuff with the show notes for this, so that if somebody wanted to reach out, because now you've kind of laid out some stuff here that's probably got some people thinking and going, you know what? Having a conversation with Michael and his partner Russ might be a good idea and stuff. And
Yeah,
so, and so,
appreciate that.
well, Michael, I really want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. This has been, I mean, I, I know, I was just really fascinated by what you guys are doing, and just kind of, to help you kind of get your message out there a little bit, and share with folks like you just did. I mean, man, it makes me feel incredibly good being able to do stuff like that and stuff. And any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
I appreciate you bringing me on. I want to give a shout out to one more person who really impacted my journey.
Okay.
When I was another Kevin Rogers of Copy Chief.
Oh, yeah.
Joining his community was great, and I think because of the person he is, and bringing together great people on both sides, both business owners, and service providers. He really helped launch my career there. So I didn't want to wrap up here without giving him a shout out because that was great as well. So um, yeah, it wasn't a true introduction in terms of like a networking introduction, but just
Uh-huh.
learn coming across him in my journey and then learning about him and joining his community was also a game changer. So, but yeah, other than that, no, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, it's great to talk about this subject because I feel like in beginning of my career, um, might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, but I focused more so on my craft than meeting people, and
Okay.
I think you got to have a healthy approach with both of those things, because
Yeah.
like you said, the what did you say? The competence and you said something else
Competence and character.
and character. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, you got to have the competence, you got to have, your craft, but you also, need to have those connections with people, I think is really
Yeah.
important too.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, and you're right. Being connected with the right people, I will tell you my own personal experience, it makes life so doggone easy. In my previous company, I ran a publishing company for 12 years. And in that 12 years, we sold $16.1 million worth of a training that I had created. And we did that through doing strategic partnerships with other entrepreneurs. And during that 12 years, I did almost 400 strategic partnerships with other entrepreneurs who helped me get my message in front of their people. And I was so incredibly grateful and appreciative of those partners because if not for them, my business would not have grown the way that it did. And what I also learned through doing it, because like I never ever reached out to anybody going, hey, will you help me sell my thing? Will you promote me? I was always reaching out. How can I be of service to them? And whether that was through me bringing my gifts and abilities to the table to be able to help them further the relationships they already had with their folks, or whether it was through me making connections that would help them, because I just love talking with entrepreneurs. I love hearing about what they're working on, what's got them jazzed, what's got them inspired. I love hearing about the problems and challenges they're having, as well as the opportunities that they're trying to take advantage of, because I always just naturally default to who do I know that might be able to help them. And then I just facilitate those connections and stuff, And it was through running that other business that really taught me the value of right relationships. And when you have right relationships, you can open so many doors so easily, so quickly. And once again, we go back to that. There's got to be that trust in both character and competence. But when we have that trust in those two areas, man, that you talk about putting some rocket fire under you, because that will launch you. And word starts getting out, and then people start talking in the right circles and all of that kind of stuff. And so, but yeah, when we've got our craft dialed in, and we've just got to the point where, like, yeah, we're really good at what we do, man. All we need to do is just be connected with the right people, because the right people, they're gonna whoever it is that we are most valuable to. It's in our best interest to like get in touch with those people and let them know how we can be of service to them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's a
so,
great point.
yeah, yeah. Well, Michael, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. Really appreciate you doing it. Really appreciate you. So thanks so much, man.
Yeah. Thanks to you, Kevin. Yeah. Really appreciate you as well. And, yeah, already looking forward to our next conversation. And
Same.
I know we'll be joining your entrepreneurial roundtable here
Yeah,
soon. So
yeah, yeah.
really looking forward to that, and appreciate you, like I said, having me on, and looking forward to getting to know you even more.
Absolutely. Well, you have a good one.
All right, thanks.